You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. All right, so Brian Kelly introduced spring. He previewed spring today, meeting with the media. And I'm telling you, it was really refreshing to listen to a coach who was both candid and thoughtful. Like, who had good ideas, knew how to articulate them, and felt like he had a plan. Don't feel like I've heard that in Baton Rouge in 15 years. It was refreshing and also honest from Brian Kelly to understand how far he feels like this program still has to go. Play number 3, please. Brian Kelly he talked about a lot of what the process has been for this team up to this point, which has been tough for his team. To hear a new voice, to implement new practices, to see new faces around the building, to have different expectations, all of which is new. All of these guys have been here. They're the new ones, and these players are all having to change. But the next layer of this, as he said, is spring practice.
That's kind of where we are right now. As we kind of move into spring practice, we get to add the next layer. There's been a lot of physical preparation. Now we get to add the technical and the tactical preparation, but always with building these habits on a day-to-day basis.
The most obvious question was quarterback. And he kind of headed it off at the pass when he said, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. You can ask me, but I don't have the answer. But ask, we had to. And did, because Myles Brennan has returned and Jayden Daniels has been added to the quarterback room. Before we go specifically into quarterback, which we'll get to, and there was a ton. He talked injuries, he talked roster, he talked the idea of what he'd like to see in the spring. But I want to start by talking about quarterback because this is our first opportunity to really talk to Brian Kelly about the addition of Jayden Daniels, who I and many are assuming is going to be the starting quarterback at LSU when they take on Florida State in the Superdome in September. But play number 5, please. He talked about his whole philosophy on roster building.
Here's what we told our group. As we build this roster, our job, my job, is to build competition at every position. If you don't like competition, this isn't the place for you. I came down here because I love competition. So it starts with me, and it's going to run through every position. If competition is not what you like, then there's another school for you. And so at every position, we're going to build it with competition. If you love to compete, LSU's the place for you.
If you're scared of competition, there's another school for you. If you love to compete, LSU is the place for you. That is the conversation that Brian Kelly is having with every player, including today, Myles Brennan, because Brian Kelly shows up, Myles Brennan's in the transfer portal, the only quarterback on campus at the time is Nussmeier. You got Walker Howard coming in. Kelly goes to Myles Brennan, says, hey, we're going to recruit a quarterback either way. The spot's here if you want it. So Brennan returns to campus. And then they add Jayden Daniels. So here was the conversation that Brian Kelly had with Myles Brennan about adding Jayden Daniels.
I think we started with just wanted to add more competition, and that nobody has the starting position. Go earn it. You've worked hard. He's changed his body. He's healthy. Remember when you threw, I think it was 4 touchdown passes against Missouri? You're an outstanding quarterback. Why can't it be you? And the same thing for Nuss, the same thing for Jayden. So I think it's just, the inner confidence that they all have in themselves that they can be the starter.
So had that conversation with Myles Brennan, come compete. I was interested in the Jayden Daniels aspect as far as how he ended up here. Was this staff pursuing a quarterback, or was it just by happenstance that he became available and they added him? Here was Brian Kelly filling in that blank of how the Jayden Daniels addition to the LSU roster came about.
Jayden had made the decision to go into the portal, which that starts the whole process. Is the young man made that decision to go in the portal. There's discussions because we're looking at the portal like the free agency board, right? The lights go on. There's internal discussions. Is this somebody that we want to bring in? Does he fit our culture? Is this a guy that we think fits the offense? And so there's internal discussions for a couple of days. And to be quite honestly, during those discussions, that's when you'll find out whether there's interest from the other party. And that's when generally somebody's reaching out. And contact was made. And then it was up to us to see if we were going to reciprocate. And obviously we did.
Okay, so that was a 46-second way of saying Jayden Daniels went into the portal, reached out to us. We had a conversation as a staff. We reciprocated. We brought him in. So it wasn't LSU reaching out to Jayden Daniels. It was Jayden Daniels who made first contact to say, hey, I'm available. Are you interested? And clearly they are. Now, the big question is why. And this is what I've talked about a lot ever since Daniels jumped aboard with LSU. His ability is something that Brian Kelly and Mike Denbrock, in the way when you look stylistically at the quarterbacks they've had, from Brian Kelly at Notre Dame with guys like Malik Zaire and Ian Book, and you all know the list. And then you look with Denbrock this year at Cincinnati, it's very obvious they want a quarterback that has mobility. And they have that here in Jayden Daniels. And he was asked about that, about Jayden Daniels' ability to extend plays.
I think he brings more than extending plays, actually. He was in an offensive structure and system which was really built towards ball control this past year, playing to a very good defense. We think that there's a lot that has not been tapped into with his ability to be a dual threat quarterback. He's got arm talent, he's got a high IQ, and he can run the football. He's a talented runner of the football. He wasn't asked to do that. He was more of an extender of plays. We think that there's much more to it than what he's brought over the last couple of years.
Sure sounds like you're going to have a quarterback with design runs, doesn't it? And if that's something they covet, you're not going to get that with Myles Brennan. You'll have it in Nussmeier. You'll have it in Walker Howard. And likely every quarterback LSU recruits heretofore, the one guy that doesn't fit that mold is Myles Brennan. So it's a huge opportunity for Brennan, but he feels like he's got a lot to prove as well, because if you look at the quarterback room right now and you say which one doesn't fit, it's Myles Brennan. But he's also the most veteran, which is why this was interesting. Brian Kelly was asked how they would handle the quarterback position in spring practice. Like, you got 4 guys. How do you get them all work? He, in a very detailed manner, explained how they plan to do that.
It probably was the one area that I spent more time with Mike and Joe than, what concept are we putting in the passing game. We're going to go seniority to start, 1 through 4, first in to last in. And then the next time it might be last in to first in, until we get into a rhythm, that allows everybody to get enough reps where you can start to break those out. I'll give you an example. We start off every practice with a tempo period. It's 12 reps. So A and B are going to split the first group of 6 reps, 3 and 3. C and D are going to split the next 2 at 3 and 3. So every day, somebody's going to get 3 and 3. Another group's going to get 3 and 3. It could be different in terms of who that first guy is, but that rotation will happen every day. It'll be similar. We do a 6-4 rotation. Ones get 6, 2s get 4 reps. So it's 10 total reps. Each one of them, in some fashion's got to get some first reps, but it'll be broken up with 4 guys working through 10 reps. And that's how we're looking at it throughout the entire spring.
And who's on first? You get all that? 3 and 3s, 6 and 4 for 10 total reps, 6 and 4s, 4s and 6, 4 total guys got to get 10 reps. What? I don't do math, but he's got it figured out. And they're going to make their way through it the best way that they think is fair to get a look at all of these quarterbacks this spring. We got a ton to talk about. We're going to get into all of it, but the single biggest question on this team is who is going to be the starting quarterback. And you got to figure that out over these 15 spring practices, because I don't believe you're going to have all 4 of these guys on the roster August 4th when they report for fall camp. So you better make darn well sure you maximize this time over the next month to figure out what you have at that position, because you have to figure out that position to then build the offense around your quarterback skill set. And I think I have a pretty good idea of how it's going to go. But that's why we'll have this next month of practice for Brian Kelly and the staff to figure out what exactly they have. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.